Welcome back. This is episode 12 of the Sioux City Show. I'm Taylor Grote. I'm hosting this thing. In the studio with me today, I have Brianna and Alexis of Kid Talk, and I'm going to let them kind of explain what Kid Talk is.
So Kid Talk is kind of like a branch off of the Siouxland Kid Scoop News. And we had a collab with the K-Wit radio station. And basically it just started off with an oral history project. And from then it kind of grew, and then we started doing little other projects. Like we started interviewing authors who did college science books. Then from there we grew and got more people into it, because at first it was just 4 people, me, her, and 2 other people. And then we got 8 people to be featured reporters. And from there we kind of just started growing, and we got our own themes. From there we
had to work on it first.
Well, I got some questions about like the growth process. First of all, did it start? Is it a school program that you're doing, or is it something that's outside of school but
It's
mixed in with school? Okay.
outside.
Cool. And when you say that you like do different themes, like what's an example of the theme that you might be working on?
Well, a few themes. First we
I did technology in school. I interviewed some people and talked about what the importance of it was and how technology in school helps students, grow.
And then I did one over intergenerational communication, which is basically the difference between, like, each generation has their own way to communicate with other people. And each one is different because we all grew up having different experiences in our life. And it's just about communication and how we can improve on that.
So what did that story look like? Like, I mean, what kind of findings did you have in there, and what was the overall message that you
A lot of it was we interviewed people like of every generation, and then we kind of like asked them basic questions on like how would you respond to this, or how do you talk to your parents, or a lot of the kids we asked, how do you like talk with your parents in like a good way or in a bad way, and then from there we talked to the parents and so on and so forth. And we learned that there's a lot of communication that goes wrong is just the talking. And a lot of people don't want to talk, which we kind of understand because a lot of them just grew up being tough and dealing with the world themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And basically our interview was going towards what can you do to talk to your children and learn to communicate with like other generations when you haven't had the same experience.
Cool. And how about like, I got a question before that. So did you get into like the differences in how people now, I feel like everybody wants to be texted and nobody wants to get a phone call, and
Yeah, definitely.
like nobody picks up the phone if you call them. Did you touch on that at all?
A little bit. We didn't get too far into it because that was like a whole nother thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of generations like to still talk,
Mm-hmm.
but there are some who use text as their main form of communication nowadays, which, I mean, I admit, me too.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't like calling, and it's more the older generation that does it now.
Yep. I know that it like drives my parents up a wall that they like have to like text all their kids. But
Exactly.
it's one of those things. I don't even keep my cell phone on me 90% of the time, so I'm never around to answer calls, and I'll get 3 calls by the time this is done here. And how about like technology in classrooms? What did you find with that?
That everyone agrees with me that there should be technology in school, but no one wants to buy it.
Yeah. I guess that's the problem, because I worked on a marketing campaign for a company that sells laptops out of California to school systems. And basically, like, the biggest problem they're having with school systems getting technology within integrated is that they know that there's better technology out there and like better ways to set kids up to learn best as possible, right? But the problem is, if just to give 2 big competitors, like if Apple has a system that can give kids like all of the graphic design and video and photo or audio editing software that they need, but Windows, like a cheap Windows knockoff almost, comes in and is like, we'll give you a computer for $200 a piece, and Apple says $1,100 a piece, then the school's always going to go with the $200 a piece computer, and like that really is a tough problem to combat. I even know when I was in college, they redid the library at the University of Iowa, and it went from being about like 50% Mac, 50% Windows computers available to students there was 5 Mac computers, and I was a video student at the time, and for the program we had to edit on Final Cut 7, and Final Cut's a Mac only program. So I had no option but to like wait for the computers in the library to be open, which was a 24-hour deal, or like make it to the video editing lab, which only had 2 computers in it. So it was like always tough for me, and I ended up just like biting the bullet and putting a laptop on credit, because like I just could not keep waiting for computers all the time, and especially with like video editing, it's a 12-hour deal start to finish. Yeah, so you got somebody in the library that's like, dude, I got 10 hours left on this, so you can't just wait there or sit there and wait. So it is tough. Like that technology in school thing is a serious issue, I'd say. So the partnership with K-Wit, like what does the interaction between Kid Talk and K-Wit look like? Are you guys actually like underneath the umbrella, or is it a separate entity?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think we're kind of under the umbrella.
Yeah.
We can just say you guys do a bunch of work with them.
Because we do. And then it's like right now it's a paid internship. So we're pretty much underneath them. And then when we need like any questions or equipment, and then we actually have our own like little separate room where the interns work. And so basically underneath the umbrella. Really
cool. So like, what do you guys like actually go into the K-Wit office every day? And is the K-Wit office on Witt's campus right now?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. It's that little building that's kind of on its own, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But we come in roughly like 3 days a week, and we come in for like 2 or 3 hours.
2 to 3 hours.
And we edit when we need to edit, and we record when we need to record.
Cool. So like, I guess the guidance that they give you, does it include like kind of training you on how to be an audio reporter? Is that what you'd consider yourself, an audio reporter, or just a journalist in general? Or
We're kind of a reporter,
kind of a reporter, yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we're featured reporters in the newspaper, or the Kids Scoop.
And that's print, so you guys are writing for that, right?
Writing.
Yep.
Which is a lot different than recording.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
It is a lot different because there's so many other things that happen. But I'd say a lot of the training that went into being a featured reporter, like, kind of applies to this, like, in the same way as, like, an interview sense. Not in a, like,
putting
editing.
it together.
Because the editing, I don't have a problem with it because I took classes with it, and it actually comes really easy to me because I also do filming on the side.
I have to, like, ask her, like, every single time I do something because I don't know how to do things. So I just ask her, and she, like, answers, like, most of my questions.
Awesome. I love it. So, like, do your written stories, are they more, like, question, answer, or do you guys, like, create a narrative around, like, the beginning? Like, yeah, okay,
definitely.
Cool. Awesome.
When I was first beginning, it was mostly question and answer kind of thing. And then Jeanette, the gal who taught me how to interview people.
And Jeanette runs the program, correct?
Yes, she does.
Okay.
And she helps with students when they need it. And she taught me slowly how to start creating a narrative around the interview. And that's helped a lot with coming up with ideas for, the whole thing.
Definitely at the interviews, too, because it doesn't really make sense if you just put their answers to your questions in the story or online or on air. And so you have to basically create a story around it where basically it could flow into their answers and then have another piece that you would say and then flow into one of their other answers. And it's kind of like all the stuff that we did for the newspaper definitely helped out because you learned for 4 years, I've basically learned for 4 years how to create stories around people's responses, and now it's just like putting their stuff online and then flow onto the onto their responses.
That's so interesting because, like, with you having the film, audio, and I guess written background for storytelling, is that you can go with written where you have like the hurdle that there's so much nuance to tone and inflection when somebody's telling you something. That isn't really you can't convey it in just like a question and answer format. That's where like crafting the story around it comes into. into play. And again, with audio, is that you're able to get the tone and the inflection of the nuance when somebody's telling you something, but you still can't see like the the half smile that they do when they're being sarcastic, or you can't see like the wink when somebody's messing around. So that's again tough to like kind of convey in an audio form where there is like some hurdles to storytelling there. But then when you're doing filmmaking, you're able to kind of show all of that. So
exactly,
that's really cool to have that whole mix of a background. So with that background, like how do you get involved with that with being in high school? How are you able to get into filmmaking and whatnot?
Well,
what have you?
Basically, it kind of started off with like I randomly signed up for an extracurricular class, which was video production. I had no clue what it was, and so I just started off kind of hesitant. And one of my friends, Sean McGarry, he just graduated this year, and basically he was recommended by our teacher, Miss Clemens, and she's retiring. But I was recommended by Miss Clemens because apparently she thought maybe it'd be a good idea to try and help out. And so she recommended me to help her help his film team with audio because he's been struggling a lot with what am I trying to say?
Audio production in tandem with the film production.
Exactly.
Cool. And that's like an extracurricular activity at what high school do you go to?
Heelan.
And
North High.
North High. All right, we got a Heelan and North High. That's so cool that you guys like have access to that type of program or like an extracurricular even, because when I was in high school, like digital video didn't really exist yet. It was like really in its infancy. So I got my first camera to myself when I was maybe 16, 17, and it was a mini DV camera, so it actually shot on like DV tape. And the only reason I really learned how to use one was because we had a teacher, Karen Blake, who for our English literature, American literature class, like gave the option that you can either write like a 10-page paper or you can make over a 5-minute video, like kind of like explaining your story as like a book report more or less. So like I took the video option, and it like really forced me to like learn how to edit video and do that, whatnot. And like I actually wrote Mrs. Blake a email like a year ago where I was like, thank you so much for giving us that option and like forcing us to learn a new skill, because that really informed like the rest of my career, because I was at a time when like cell phones didn't have video on them, so that you couldn't like shoot a video on an iPhone and then make a movie out of it, which an iPhone has about 10 times the video quality that the cameras I was shooting on in high school do. So do you have your own cameras, audio equipment? Are you able to get that through the school? How does that work?
Yeah, actually, my school, we have been getting new equipment right now. Last year, we got a gimbal set, and we have a bunch of cameras, and we have our own sound booth. So we can record audio in there. A few of the students use it to record songs, and it's actually really good, which I'm pretty surprised. But the school isn't really too involved. They are, but a lot of the reason we've been getting a lot of the equipment is because our film team, which enter competitions, and basically we spend weekends making films. And because we've been winning so many competitions, they're like, okay, maybe this is actually a good investment. So they've been giving us more equipment for what's been going on.
Wow, that's awesome. How about at North High? Do you guys have like any like extracurriculars or programs that you're involved in that kind of led into Kid Talk?
Right now I'm going into my freshman year, so I'm not quite sure, but from what I've heard from my brother and other friends that are already in high school, there is like 1 or 2 like extracurriculars that have like audio and video kind of stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, that's so cool. I guess when I was in middle school, our school had gotten a big grant to put in a new shop lab. That it was like the shop program kind of became like a life skills beyond schooling program, but the teacher didn't really know how to do any of the things besides the shop pieces of the life skills deal. So it just turned into like, here's a CNC machine, you can learn how to use this. If not, go drill some boards together or whatever. So yeah, like there was actually a film, like a school news set and a school radio set in my middle school that we never got to touch. So I remember just looking down and being like, oh, it's so close. But yeah, so how about like, you mentioned the film team keeps winning competitions. Are you a member of the film team?
Yes, I am.
What competitions?
So we entered the IMDb international competitions, and so far we've won 2 of them with 2 of our films, which is Infection, which was directed by Sean McGarry, and I did the audio for that, which a lot of my job is basically I make sure everything runs well, and then I do the boom mic, and then I help with all the editing afterwards. And so basically I was there for Infection, which was the first film I worked on, and then Invasion, which was one of the second film I worked on. And right now, our third film that we entered, or we will be entering another one because we just finished it, and we're going into post-production this weekend, actually.
So wait, are you guys 2 for 2 on winning IMDb competitions that you've entered?
Yes.
Dang, that's wow.
And so we have 2 actresses who have won Best Actress of the month. And then our director had won, I believe he'd won Best Young Director? I can't quite recall. And then I won Best Sound Design. So that was pretty cool.
Very cool, yeah.
And so right now we're going to be getting ready to enter our third one into this year, which you can only enter 3 a year.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. That's a good streak to have going.
I know, exactly.
You can graduate with a 100% winning rate. I just didn't win my first competition that I entered on July 11th. I was bummed because I was coming in hot too. I was 1 for 1 on film competitions. So, but yeah, that's really cool. So like, what's the next step? Is this kind of is being involved in Kid Talk hopefully like a step towards becoming professional journalists or professional filmmakers? Like, what do you guys envision for the future?
Oh, that's a hard question. Because next year, since our film director has basically graduated, I'm going to be taking over the film team. So it's a lot of, I'm going to try and juggle everything so far because I'm going to also be into the radio, but I also had to take care of the film team and still make films. So it's a bit of wherever this can lead me, I might follow the path.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And how about you?
I don't know. I just kind of think it's fun.
Well, you're a freshman, so you don't got to start thinking about careers yet. You're
well, I'm only a junior.
Yeah,
but
it's nice
I'm
to get all
close.
the skill sets before you got to really make any decisions. So.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at this point, I'm just kind of thinking I'm going to do all the things that I think are fun and kind of see which one I like best.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the best way to go.
That is the best way to do it. I'm always like jealous when I think back to being, I guess, in high school or like before becoming an adult who has to pay bills. But like the amount of time that I could spend on a video, like if I wanted to create like a really cool, fiction narrative video, I could spend like 3 weeks on it. But now, like basically at the rate I produce videos, I've produced 7 this week from Monday to Wednesday, and I have 10 more that I have to have done today and tomorrow. So like at that rate, I don't have the time to put it into like these big grand productions just because there's like bills to pay, and as an independent contractor in Sioux City, July is my fast month, so it's always like a super fast work in progress. So I'm jealous of the time that you guys are able to like really spend on making these stories come to life, and that's so cool. So how about like where can like people find the work that you guys are doing? Well, be it let's go Kid Talk first, and then we'll talk about individual projects outside of Kid Talk.
So Kid Talk, a lot of it'd be really easy just to ask around.
It comes out in a print edition that goes to the schools, right?
Yeah, it does.
That's kids.
Kid Scoop. Okay,
Yeah,
so Kid
Kid
Talk.
Scoop, sorry.
Yep. Okay.
And so either you could get to it through Kid Scoop, which it'd be really easy because you just have to like contact Jeanette, and she'd be more than willing to help you. Okay. And she'd probably even get you started on a few interviews or your own piece. Mm-hmm. And from there, you can always either build your way up, or you could just you could still get in contact with Jeanette and ask her about Kid Talk. Which you could go both ways. Either you could start off with writing, or you could start off with the audio. Mm-hmm. And
there's, the drawing. They do like contests for drawing, I think, on the paper, right?
Yeah, so just to make sure I'm getting this right, Kid Scoop is the print edition, Kid Talk is the radio edition.
Exactly.
And the radio edition comes out through the K-Wit programming,
Yes.
correct?
So you can also contact Mark Munger, who is the manager of the radio station, and he'd be more than willing to help out.
Awesome. And how about like your guys' stories? When can people listen to those?
Well, they're still in editing right now because we're still getting our pieces together. But for the stories that we're working on right now, there are some stories that are on the website, Siouxland Public Media, and you can just search up either their names or our names, and there's all on the website. Every story that we've done.
And I'll put links to these in the description of the YouTube video
right.
that I'm doing so that people have an easy way to find your work. How about like the films that you've made? Where can people find those? Are those available on the internet?
Yeah, actually, they're on a YouTube channel right now on Dragonsmith.
Okay.
And that's the our director's old channel. And so those are the films that we've completed and the ones that we have in production, which we'll send out. After the film competitions have okayed it, we usually post it on that channel because he's the director. Mm-hmm. And so we're still trying to decide a channel for our new film team, which will be starting up next year, though.
That's so cool. You guys should like create like a teen channel. And
exactly.
Have you ever heard of Broken Lizard? I don't know if you're old enough to like know these movies, but like Beer Fest and like Super Troopers.
Yes. I know that.
Club Dread. Like it's all like the same guys are in all those same movies.
Yeah.
And they're all directed by Jay Chandrasekhar, and but they're actually like a group of guys that Jay Chandrasekhar was approached when he was in college, and somebody was like, hey, you have to make an improv team to have like at this night that we do like an improv at our theater. And he ended up getting like his 5 friends that were like the funniest guys he knew on campus that weren't actually actors, and got them all to be on this one improv team with him. Yeah. And they ended up now being like movie star career where they all work together on every movie.
And it all started with that improv.
Yeah, and they called themselves Broken Lizard was when they were in college. So like that's like their same crew that they've kept since then. So you guys always have the opportunity to maybe by serendipity be able to create a long-lasting career with a group of people. Maybe you hate them, I don't know. So yeah, that's really cool. And how about you, Alexis? Is there anything going on that people should know about?
I usually don't do things outside of my house. It's mostly, I do a lot of like visual arts, but that's mostly
animations.
Yeah, I've been trying animations.
Cool.
And that's pretty much the extent of what I do.
I love it. That's well. I mean, like I've had to get into animation now. After being like a professional videographer for 5 years, so it's like a good skill to have going into it for sure. And I don't like. This is also kind of a tip for any young people who are looking to get into filmmaking or like videography, photography, whatever it may be, that already has a background in it. Is that oftentimes people don't realize like that your skills are already in demand. Like animation is something that creative agencies are always looking for somebody who can create like quick on the fly animations and that kind of stuff. I don't know what kind of programs you're using, but if you can get to the point where you're adept in After Effects, like that's a big plus to like any potential creative agencies you'd like to work for. And that's something you don't need a college degree to prove that you're great at animation. You just got to be able to send a portfolio to a company. So that is super cool. And this comes to the point in the show where I have a big question for you. This is called the Most Slept On in Sioux City segment, where I would like you guys, if you could think of something in Sioux City that you know about and you think is great and you think everybody else should know about it, but they don't. It could be restaurants, parks you like to hang out at, theaters, whatever it may be. Just something that whenever you it doesn't have to be big. If you tell somebody in Sioux City, they're like, "Oh, that's really great. Thank you so much." Does anything spring to mind? Because I could probably take a first one for you. I could give mine before you guys do yours and give you some time.
You could probably do yours first.
Okay. So my most slept on in Sioux City right now is Springboard Co-working, and specifically First Friday Coffee. Springboard Co-working is a co-working lab in Sioux City, which means that anybody who is kind of like a freelancer, runs a small business that doesn't quite have the money to like lease an office space or have their own building yet, but you know, it's so much easier to work when you get out of the house and you're able to sit down in an office and actually go to an office. So Springboard is a place where for a monthly fee or even a daily fee, you can either have your own private office or you can just work at a desk in the open office space that they have. And it's a great deal. I've had an office there on and off, and they have really fast internet, which I'm a big fan of. And they also have this event that they do called First Friday Coffee, where it's basically an opportunity for entrepreneurs to be able to get together and talk about their new ideas that they're working on. So I presented in May about Honeywave Media and was able to kind of give a presentation to everybody in the room, where it includes local business leaders, entrepreneurs from the community, and even people who work for like city council, the small business development committees, downtown partners, that kind of stuff, and kind of give them an update on what I'm doing at Honeywave Media and all the things that I have going on, and even show videos that I've created. So they were, it's tough to get that audience together for one thing that you're doing, and to have a captive audience for half an hour for any entrepreneur is a great deal. So I would recommend that anybody who's starting a project or looking into building a small business to get in touch with Jeff Arnold over at Springboard Co-working, or just stop by Springboard and see what you can do.
Definitely.
Have you guys thought of yours yet?
Mine's not going to be as
it's
big as yours, but there's just one coffee place I really love. It's just Scooters,
Okay.
and the one over by Domino's on Hamilton. It's really lovely in the morning because it's nice and quiet, and then you could just get your coffee or your muffin, and it's just perfect over there.
That's cool. That's our third coffee shop. We've had Pier Street Coffee Works, and we've had Stone Brew, and that's our first Scooters mention. So great pick. Alexis, do you have your own, or are you piggybacking off of the Scooters recommendation?
Yeah.
Here, I'll give you guys one. You
Okay.
guys should encourage everybody to check out Kwit, because Kwit is a local public resource that is it's everybody's news channel basically, because
Yeah.
it is a publicly funded news station. So, and it has great original programming. It gives opportunities to young people who are looking to get into the journalism field. It's promoting journalism, and it provides a salary for people without having to basically have I hate using this word in a pejorative context, but a capitalist agenda behind it, where it can be storytelling for the sake of storytelling, and it's public knowledge for the sake of public knowledge. Definitely. So that's a really beautiful thing for a community to have, and I think that everybody in Sioux City could do themselves a great service by taking a second to check out Kwit and all the things they have to offer.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much for coming on to the show.
Thank you for having
This
us.
has been wonderful, and until next time, this is the Sioux City Show. Thank you.